That was a terrible Wayne's World countdown.
It was a terrible one. Hello and welcome to the Good Game Ireland podcast. I'm Phil and today I'm joined by Aaron.
Hi.
And Cormac.
Yay, we're back again.
And we're going to be talking about the games we've been playing this week. So I think we'll start with Aaron, who was playing a game called Cities Skylines, which I'd never heard of until he said it to me just now.
How have you not heard of it?
Okay.
Aaron's going to talk about the game.
Okay.
For people who don't know what Cities Skylines is, like Phil, so that one person who doesn't know what Cities Skylines is, it's a city building game. In the vein of like the old SimCity games or
Donald Trump Property Tycoon or whatever.
Yeah. So it's basically just a straight up city building game. There's no complexity or story really or anything.
If I remember correctly, it was just after SimCity 5, and people were complaining a lot about SimCity 5,
Yes.
and Cities Skylines came out, and it was a lot
Yeah.
purer and a sort of a proper evolution of what SimCity 4 was, which was completely different.
It only came out like less than a year ago.
Yeah. Is it less than a year?
Less than a year ago. It came out March 2015.
I'm actually surprised by that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was kind of like the way like Pathfinder was like a follow-up to a disappointing D&D ad.
Yeah, well, like the guys that made Cities Skylines, it's like a team of about 15 guys, like some Finnish developers who did Cities in Motion 1 and 2, which you've probably heard of. Okay, Cities in Motion is it's kind of like, it's not like Railroad Tycoon kind of thing, right? It's like a city builder, but with a specific focus on building like railways and roads and all that kind of stuff. Whereas this is a pure city builder where you're actually constructing like the commercial zone, the industrial zone, the residential zone, and then you have to put down like power plants and water treatment facilities and schools and police stations.
Really in-depth kind of like, it pretty much forces problems on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get big enough and now everyone wants a primary school, so you got to build a primary school, and then your thing starts growing again and now they need a secondary school and you don't have room for it anymore and the other one is too far away.
Yeah.
So the bigger you grow, the more things they need, and then the more difficult everything becomes.
You're constantly in recovery. In, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going to start off with a small residential, a small commercial area, and an industrial area, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like, okay, yeah, but now people are sort of, we need a park, and now you've got a huge park, and it's like, okay, well, now it's like you've got too many people and not enough businesses to put them in, so you increase your
and now
unemployment and all.
And
now
now
we're running out of power.
sanitation's becoming an issue, and it's sort of like, and it's literally just throwing curveballs at you again and again. It's like just general what city building games are like.
Yeah, because I mean, as you can tell, I'm not massively familiar with the genre. But it sounds like a bit like, do you play Fallout Shelter? Kind of like the same kind of resource management, where the more people you get, the more difficult it becomes to sustain it.
On a conceptual level, it is kind of like, in a way, it's a resource management-y kind of game.
Yeah.
You only have one resource, which is money, in the game.
We are making it sound very restrictive, but it's a very creative kind of, you can build your city pretty much whatever way you want. Kind of thing.
But it is about managing your money, but there's other kind of like secondary resources that build into the game. So in City Skylines in particular, you have like general like electricity production.
Yeah.
And the more buildings you have, the more you start sapping electricity, and you have to start putting down more power plants and building power lines. But then they're noisy and smelly and they get in the way and people don't like them. So that residential area near the power plant becomes a slum. And then crime rate starts getting really high and you got to drop down a police station. But like that costs a lot of money and you don't have a lot of money because you only have to building a power plant.
Yeah.
So you got to it's...
You got to borrow and then all of a sudden you're in debt.
So it's all part of like the excitement of the game. It's like just keeping on top of everything.
It's constantly dynamic. You can't let the game sit and run because something will always happen. But one of the coolest features of City Skylines is, I think it's not cool, it's just a small feature, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. There's a little ticker at the top, which is basically like the Cities Skylines civilian version of Twitter, where civilians like post kind of shit on their little thing, and it pops up and it
kind of, this town's crap. Or
it's giving you a bit of feedback, and it's like, this is the best town ever. This is paradise. And other ones, there's a great one that pops up
of like theme park, I suppose, with the little heads.
It's a reaction thing.
Yelp reviews in real time.
There's a great one when if you start running, like if people want to move into the area and there's no houses, there's like jokes of like the police station is renting out cells and stuff like that. It's like it was good. I like
that's
it.
Real nice.
Reminds me of living in Dublin.
I actually haven't played Skylines, but I was really looking forward to SimCity 5, and I was disappointed with the fucking botch job they did on that release.
Who dev'd that?
It's an EA game. I'm not sure who the actual
who the devil. Yeah, EA published it. Well, it's no surprise it was a botch job.
And like they had a lot of really cool ideas that I was interested in trying. But like the main issue with SimCity 5, I'm not sure if you noticed, Phil, was it was pretty much forced. It was forced online play. It was like you got like this, say like a region like about the space for about between 2 and like 16 cities depending on the map size you choose, and you're kind of unfortunately you weren't able to expand a city out to do everything like in a kind of offline. I just want
sandbox mode.
Yeah, I want to build Dublin, and Dublin's going to be like self-contained, and it's not going to need to like import or export anything like to sustain its economy. Whereas SimCity 5, because of the limitations in the size, really forces like, okay, this map has oil on it, so I'm going to be like, and you could choose to be like, oh, I'm going to get all my resources from the oil money I bring in.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, because of all the oil, I'm going to have too much pollution, so I'm not going to have like happiness in other ways. So you kind of need other cities in the continent to reach those needs. Exactly, yeah. And say like your sanitation is going to be really hard to keep up. So a city that's a lot more green environment would be able to send their like workers to you. You know what I mean? So it kind of like it forced this interactivity that a lot of people didn't like, because it was like, well, I just want to build a massive city.
This probably isn't the best comparison, but just trying to relate to something I'd know. It'd be like, say, if you're playing Minecraft and you get dumped in, say, a snow area as your initial generated map, and then rather than being able to go off and build somewhere else, you have to get people who are in areas with food to send it to you. Like, is that kind of
it's
if you're that like hamstrung, it's like, it's not that badly balanced, but
that sounds terrible.
But these are games like from a genre that thrives on. Like, okay, the whole thing of like this forced interactivity, right? These are games that are for people who don't want to interact with people. And what I mean by that is like, when I'm finished,
wrongly worded there.
When I'm finished playing games with you guys, sometimes I'll log off and I'll boot up Cities Skylines, and I'll sit there for 2 hours and have a bit of fun on my own, because it's a relaxing thing. Even though it's dynamic, it's still quite relaxing. I'm not like it's not like high octane, like playing League or Vermintide. It's just it's a chilly out kind of game.
It's like aspect of Civilization. It's kind of like you can play it with people, but like I prefer actually messing around and like I'll
just play against bots and see how Venice is or something, exactly. And that's what I like about it. And the forced interactivity of SimCity, like it kind of just ruined the point of the ability to just be off on your own and be, the mayor of this town, or and just build your own city and do it all on yourself, all on your own. It felt really good.
Yeah, because those are the kinds of games that even say you've got like 10 minutes before you go out to work and having a cup of tea, sit down, do a quick bit of work on the city before popping off, rather than having to kind of go, well, I need someone to send me resources, so I have to be around to receive them.
SimCity 5 kind of works like that, isn't it? If you're not online, your city's not.
Well, that's what I mean.
Developing, Whereas Cities Skylines doesn't really.
Well, because there's no that interactivity. It's just when you load up the thing, the city's going, and then you save it and quit, and it's paused.
SimCity 5 had that. Like if someone because of the online concept of there's 16 different cities, if someone decided I don't want to play SimCity 5 anymore, they couldn't even destroy their city, or they couldn't let someone else take control of it, as far as I was aware. So you just had this deserted city that just had fucking a tiny residential area and it's doing nothing.
So like aside from the online get up where you have to be online, like how does Cities Skylines compare to other games in the genre?
It's definitely like it's a very modern improvement. If you know what I mean, like it's taken a lot of elements of.
I've seen some really impressive, like elaborate traffic systems and stuff. Like really stuff that it sounds really boring, but it's really impressive. Like no roundabout simulator, like perfect round, like motorway, and just like proper, like just I suppose. Really well thought out like systems, and it's really easy in terms of like SimCity to all of a sudden have this big fucking avenue that always gets bottled up because it simulates real life, where it's kind of like everyone wakes up at 9, they go to work, huge bottlenecks in traffic.
Then the town is dead for a few hours.
And then the town is dead for a few hours, and then all of a sudden everyone finished work and it's big bottleneck back. So you gotta get transport systems and stuff. So it's
in Cities Skylines in particular, like you can build like roads that are 1 lane, 2 lane, 3 lane. You can build like big motorway style roads. You can build small country lane roads. Cool. You can tier like vertically, so you can have roads that bridge over other roads as well. Like so, like they've really they've taken a lot of the stuff that you can now do reasonably on a modern computer that won't like bog down the system, and and actually like integrate it into the game in such a way that it improves the game. It's not just gimmicky stuff, you know. It's actually it's quality of life improvement, stuff that the games should have always had but never could, and now they do. You know, it's great. And like there's like when you start off on your map, you have your one big square of area, and as you progress throughout like the stages of your town, the bigger it gets. It goes from like a little village to a town to a city to like a big megalopolis. And every time you hit these benchmarks, you can unlock another square. So now your city has like 2 squares worth of area to expand into, and then you can build out again, and it could be like 3 squares to build out into.
Yeah.
So you can keep growing the size of your city, and there's train lines and motorways that you can hook up to, so your city's connected to the main line. You build a little train station, and trains start coming in and landing at the station and stuff.
And there's a kind of an idea of like, can you build like landmarks and stuff the way you could in 4 to just like draw people in and stuff like that?
There's general like entertainment-y, landmarky stuff, like you can build like monuments and arenas and stuff, but there's also a DLC that was like extortionately expensive that had real life stuff, so you could build like, you know, the Millennium Dome and that kind of stuff if you wanted.
Like to get perfect recreation.
Yeah, and it was like, you know,
sponsored by the Millennium Dome.
I just wasn't fussed. I don't give a shit about that, you know. But I like just, you know, drop down you know, sports ball stadium of some sort, because I mean you can swap between like people driving on the left, driving on the right. So if you want to build a town that looks more European, you can select the European art style.
Yeah.
So it kind of like there's 2 art styles as well, like an American and a European one. The European one has a lot of like those Georgian 3-story brick house kind of townhouse, city house stuff.
Idiotic that is.
Yeah.
But like it does give you the options to recreate real life locations.
Something that looks like if you're building Dublin, you don't want all your houses to look like those like weird American wooden houses. Yeah. You know, with the porch and the, you know,
or like Mediterranean villas around.
You know, it's like no
copy paste houses sort of thing.
There's actually great variety to the house, like house stuff. There's like easily maybe 10 or 15 different style houses and buildings and like shops for like each kind of style thing.
Yeah.
So like you build a big residential zone and it never looks like a big. Actually, that's probably the most unrealistic element. It never looks like a big clone estate, which.
Oh yeah, because there's like different estates around Dublin. They all look the exact same, and it really freaks me out.
You live in one of them.
Yeah, because I know I don't.
No, he doesn't.
Well, you live in an area that looks the same as everything else around it. Like all the houses look the same all the way up your area.
Well, yeah,
it's my house.
I think of his house.
Well, I know your house too. Yeah, but.
It's because you're from the country, so
every house is different. It's all hobbled together.
There's 2 houses on that road. We call it a town, sure.
It's a Shrojvalja, actually.
But no, like listen to it now, because I listen to you talk about it. Because I'm not big into these like map building games. I tend to get a bit bored of them. But like the problem solving aspect of it sounds really good. Like it's kind of like they got the same thrill as like solving a puzzle, I would say.
That's fundamentally what they are. They're kind of like puzzle games where you're building your own puzzle, because every decision you make has a knock-on effect, and all of that like factors into the difficulty of the next puzzle.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if I don't build residential like houses in this area and I save it for a school, I'm going to start running out of houses for people to move into. So I have to build a new estate off my city, build a new residential area. But now I have to build a new school in that area and like wire it up with electricity. And then that's causing a drain on my power, and you know, now the ambulance service doesn't reach that far, so I have to build a new hospital. You know, so it's constantly
all chaining.
It's interesting,
constantly changed together.
If you think about it from like the point of view of real cities, I suppose like, you can really see it with like old cities like Dublin, for instance, that starts at a point and builds outwards. Like because of that, everything's sort of all over the places, and there's like loads of little business districts, and then there's industrial estates outside the city, and then there's residential areas like expanding out in random places, and then commercial districts stuck in the middle of them. And that's kind of how like city building games work. So there's no option there. It's like, oh, we're going to build like a big super city in Kenya and we're going to have everything pre-planned. It's impossible, like, and it requires way too much money.
You don't have the gold at the start to do it, you know.
Okay, so
gold. Like in a generic RPG sense.
So we have been talking a lot about like the challenge of the game. Now, if you're someone like me who's never played one of these games before, like how like what's the difficulty curve like? How easy is it to get into?
There is like a tutorial thing at the start which does ease you into it a lot, and it is the kind of game where you can be eased into these genres because, as we said, you start off with just a residential zone, and then it goes, we need jobs. So you build a commercial zone, and it's like, oh, now we. Well,
we've been through this a few times.
Well, what I'm saying is, but it guides you step by step through it. At the same time, though, if you've never played these games, there's a good chance you'll be completely baffled by the appeal.
Yeah,
and I can definitely understand why someone would be completely uninterested in a game like this because
that's the thing because
it's for older players as well. I remember trying to play SimCity 3, I think, back when I was a teenager, and just being, we need a residential area, and just clicking and dragging a huge, massive green square that's going to become a huge residential area. And it's like, now you've got no money because you've just built a huge residential area, and you go and this is a stupid game.
Forget this, I'm going to go play Gears of War.
It's not like high energy. It's not for people who like thrill seeking in their games. It sounds like a nice game. Chill out game. But there's people who don't have time to chill out with games. They want to sit down and they want to blast through an hour of Battlefront and then put their kid to bed and go, or something like that. Or it's it's not a game for everyone. I'll definitely say that much. I can definitely understand why someone had no interest in it. But it does ease you into it. It doesn't block you really badly by difficulty curve at the start of the game or anything. It does get fucking difficult, in a money sense. You start running out of cash quick if you don't know what you're doing. But at least you have a vague understanding of what everything does. So then when you start up your second game, you're usually doing much better.
It's nice. Listening to talk about I could definitely see the appeal of the game, and I can also appreciate how it wouldn't be a game for everyone. Yeah. But it's overall, I'm sensing you would recommend this for people to play.
I mean, if you were stung by the SimCity games, then this is the game that you want to pick up instead. It is so new. It's less than a year old, as we said. So it doesn't feel outdated, or it's not like going back and playing some of the older games and they look ugly.
Yeah. Or the user interface is a bit clunky.
Yeah, no, it's very streamlined and stuff. So yeah, if you're into city builders or you're even just interested sort of in the genre in general and you want to dip in, it's a great place to start. But if it sounds like something you're not interested in, then it's not going to change your mind. It's not going to win you over,
I guess take it back to the D&D comparison. If you're a big fan of RPGs, but you didn't like what Civilization 5 did, to take the shift to the left and move across to Cities Skylines.
Civ 5 wasn't an RPG.
Not Civ 5. What was the city building with 5?
SimCity 5.
SimCity 5, there we go.
SimCity 5.
Oh, man.
SimCity 5, yeah, no, if
there's going to be someone sitting there going, why the fuck's he talking about Civilization?
if you were why we were talking about RPGs.
And then that is what, I know what you mean with the D&D comparison and stuff.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
But, no, yeah, if you were stung, this is definitely going to salve the wound a bit. It's going to be what you were looking for, I reckon.
Oh, cool.
So, perfect SimCity 5 out of 7?
5 out of 7.
Yeah, I'm probably going to check that out now.
Yeah, give it a shot, man.
Go and play it after this. Yeah. But
borrow my Steam library if you want.
That was directed just at me, not everyone.
But, link in the description below.
If anyone wants to know my username and login details.
It's like post your credit card details. That is your stormtrooper name. Speaking of stormtroopers, or rather wars in space, the game I've been playing this week is Space Marine, and it's a third-person hack and slash shooter set in the distant future, a dystopian future, 40,000 years in the future, where Nottingham is the capital of Earth. So obviously
38,000 years in the future.
It's actually 39,000. Let's not get into that.
It's the 41st millennium.
41st millennium. It's like the 40999 in the lore for the past 20 years or something.
So just in case people got lost, what's the name of the game again?
Space Marine. Okay.
40k Space Marine.
Yeah, Space Marine. It's a Warhammer 40k game where you play as a Space Marine. And I know I'm saying the word Space Marine a lot, but it gets said a lot in the game as well.
But to be Space Marine about it.
Space Marine about it. Yeah, it was made by Relic Entertainment back in the day, and obviously they went down with the ship when THQ got canned.
Yes, that's how I got the game.
That's how you got the game.
Yeah.
And it's got a single player mode, obviously, and then multiplayer mode. The single player campaign is really cool. You play as Ultramarines captain. I know Ultramarines, but you play as an Ultramarines captain called Captain Titus, and you land on a planet because it's been overrun with space orcs.
Just picturing Final Fantasy X.
Blitzball.
Captain Titus.
I'm not getting back into Final Fantasy X again. Come on.
No, we'll have a special.
It's the only game Phil's ever played.
That is true.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so you're playing as Captain Titus with his hit squad of Space Marines and Ultramarines, and you're land this planet and start fighting orcs, and it's really, really good. The enemy diversity is fantastic, because you have like all the different forms of orcs, like the normal orc boys, the Ard boys, so you've got like better weapons and more armor, orc knobs who are fucking huge and really hard to kill. Like
they're wearing the contents of a garbage can as armor and stuff. They look great.
Like the American football helmets on and everything. And it goes all the way up to like war boss, and then in the second half of the game it takes a bit of a pitch shift and you get some pretty different enemies that like I don't really want to spoil on people.
Don't spoiler,
but it's really, really cool. And then on the flip side of that, well, I'll stick with the single player for a second here before I go over to the multiplayer. I would say it could get like a tiny bit repetitive if you sat down and played it all in one sitting.
How long is the main campaign?
I wouldn't know offhand, but it's about like 6 hours, I would say.
Okay.
Depending on the difficulty you're playing on, I guess.
Okay,
so fairly short, kind of first-person shooter-esque length.
Yeah, like it doesn't really get like too repetitive or boring, but like there is like a mid-section where all you're kind of doing is like hacking and slashing through hordes of enemies before the change in pace.
Right, yeah.
So before the secret big bad is revealed. So yeah, around that point there's like a tiny bit of a lull, but it's still really good. And something which I think is fantastic is when you're walking around, you can find all these servo skulls, and they have recordings of the people who used to work in the factory that you're in, like, and it's fantastic world building because you're kind of hearing the early stages of the invasion and
background storytelling.
Yeah, no, it's really cool because like when you pick them up, like you can.
That's what I was going to ask, because I've like obviously you grew up like playing 40k and stuff like that, like on tabletops. I haven't got a clue as to the lore. So is it kind of, does it introduce it like properly, or is it kind of like, if you like 40k, then here's a continuation of some story?
Oh yeah, it doesn't really sit down and kind of go in the 30 millennium when the emperor was. It doesn't get into all that, but it kind of throws you into the middle of the action. Like you know what's going on, and they kind of give you enough contextual information that you
are Marcus Phoenix, the Space Marine.
Yeah, there's like a
here's your fridge, here is your gun.
There's a notable difference between you and the normal guardsmen you're fighting along with, like physically, and they have like a massive reverence for you, and you really get the impression that like a Space Marine isn't something they've ever really seen. So you do get very much the impression that there's like something special about a Space Marine showing up to one of these things. And the way the orcs react to you is pretty gas as well, although every third line they shout is Space Marine. It's like, I'm going to shoot at you, Space Marine, and all this stuff. Like, it's really funny.
It's surprising because the orcs are usually known for their varied dialogue.
Oh, the orcs in 40k are great because they're basically a bunch of football hooligans.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Fucking Chelsea fans.
Yeah. But anyway, the servo skulls, they're really cool because you pick them up and like it plays the audio as you're running around, so you don't get like a Gears of War thing where you're walking at like half
with
a mile an hour
hand
with your hand in your ear.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes like, Marcus, to go to the building, and say you're just walking around like, and you hear like all these fantastic stories, like people trying to evacuate their families and stuff, and it really adds like a lot to it, like a big human element to the invasion, even though you never really see it.
It's just something of a kind of, because you're playing a Space Marine sort of as the invasion is really at the end of, like, they've been invaded, right? So the invasion is over and it's now the swarm, and you're playing something that is this sort of big emotionless killing machine. I guess adds a human element to it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say entirely emotionless, but like
you know what I mean.
Like the whole thing is,
he's not going to break down and cry anytime soon.
Yeah, it is the one thing that's fantastic about this game, though. It's like when you're playing something like Gears of War or Call of Duty, you're playing like this unstoppable killing machine that can slaughter everything around them, and stuff like that. Like it's slightly immersion breaking because like you kind of think, well, no normal person could do this, but when you're playing as a Space Marine, you're playing as something that's genetically designed. It's supposed to be a killing machine. It's supposed to be able to fight, like, be a one-man army. Yeah. So, like, it feels really good. And when you're fighting some of the bigger enemies and stuff, you get these fantastic, like, execution animations where, like, you're tearing their, like, the top of their heads off their jaws and stuff because, like, Space Marines are so strong they can do that. Yeah. And, like, the weapon diversity is great in it. Like, you get, like, just a bunch of different, like, melee weapons. Like, you have, like, your chain sword and your power sword, thunder hammer and stuff. And
does your fighting style change depending on which weapons you have, or is it kind of like wielding a melee weapon.
It's like they all have different stats, like different levels of like outright damage, rate of fire, armor pen, and the armor pen one becomes a big deal later on when you're fighting against some of the tougher, more armored enemies like the Orc Knobs and the Ard Boys, because they won't go down as easy to normal bolter fire.
Sorry, after you described them as football hooligans, Ard Boys just has a different meaning in my head.
Yeah. Oh, they're that's basically it. They're a bunch of Ard lads.
Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The health system is really cool actually as well, because you have a shield that regens, but your health doesn't unless you execute enemies doing the special animation. Now the pro of that is that it means you're always playing aggressive. Like you're like, it's not like Gears of War where you're kind of like hugging into cover,
chest high walls.
Yeah. But the disadvantage is that you're kind of a bit exposed when you're doing the animation. So it could be a bit of a nightmare when you're trying to execute an enemy for health in the middle of
and you're getting shot to shit by something else.
Yeah, but like the trade-off on that is you have like this energy meter that when it hits full, you can activate it, and you're constantly regenerating health, and it kind of triggers this like bullet time. It's
like a ragey kind of
rage meter
stuff.
The single player is absolutely fantastic, and like if you're a fan of the 40k universe, you'll love the environments you're fighting in, and it's really respectful to the lore, and the game itself is a hell of a lot of fun to play.
Would you recommend like keyboard and mouse or controller or?
Definitely controller, and I'll tell you why next. I'm going to talk about the multiplayer a bit here. Now, the multiplayer at the moment is fairly quiet, as you can imagine, because it's a bit of an old game. I've been trying to play a bit of the PvP. I've had to wait a while to get a match for two reasons. One, because it's old, but also the DLC they released divided the community in two.
Oh, that's bad management there, yeah.
Yeah, because they released a bunch of new maps and a new game mode that like kind of split the community between people who had it and people who didn't. And it was a shame because like one of the new modes was a mode called Dreadnought Assault, where you could play as like a giant killing robot, and that was really, really cool. So the PvP is it's fairly quiet. I think we were looking at before this. Like this month, there was like 200 odd players at any given time playing it.
There's like 230 something concurrent players.
Yeah, playing the game already. But the Exterminatus mode, which is like the Horde mode, where you play with 3 other people fighting against, it's like 20 waves of orcs plus a bonus round, and that is really good. Like I haven't had too much trouble getting into games, like very fast queue times playing the last few nights.
Like how big are the other modes? Are they 5-on-5 or
the PvP
free for all kind of stuff?
The PvP I think is 8-on-8. I can't remember offhand now.
Oh yeah, so that's what I mean. You have a big lobby to fill up, so it's Whereas Exterminatus, if it's only 3 people, it's just find 2 people.
Well, it's 4 people total.
4 people.
It's you plus 3 people.
But like you don't really need 3 anyway to do it.
Right.
And this is where the sort of controller keyboard thing comes in, because when you're playing Exterminatus, like you can play as 3 different classes. You can play as an assault marine who's got a big jetpack, really great in melee, absolutely slaughters normal orcs. Bit exposed to shooting though, which I'll get into in a second. You can play as a Devastator, who's like the heavy weapons marine, who's got like the big fuck off guns, and they're absolutely fantastic for taking out the tougher enemies, and you really need them towards the end. But the best flat out one overall, and this is where kind of poor balance I guess comes in, is the Tactical Marine. And the reason the Tactical Marine is so great for 2 reasons. One, because you can get a perk that gives you 2 guns, which is really handy, like nice. A primary and a secondary, rather than just having the one. And the second thing is the combat roll. And the combat roll is the single most busted thing in this game, especially in Exterminatus, because you can combat roll through hordes of orcs, taking almost no damage. And as a consequence, I basically only ever get shot to death anymore, because the orcs are stupidly accurate in the game for some reason. And Cormac, you wouldn't know this because you don't really play the game, but in the lore, they're infamously inaccurate.
Like Clone Trooper kind of stuff.
Yeah, like Stormtroopers.
They're big, bulky guys who just want to go and punch stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like guns for them are.
It's like their fucking finger doesn't even fit into where the trigger is. Right?
Well, it's actually in the lore that like orc guns don't work. They just work because they think they do, because it's like weird latent psychic thing.
You said this to me before. Yeah, it's kind of like this sort of placebo effect. Is their
exactly.
psychic power? It's like if you give them medicine, even if it's fucking a rancid like hot dog, it's like if they think it's medicine, it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's like this weird
mildly psychic
high of mind psychic thing.
My favorite thing about that is the red. Red goes faster.
Oh yeah, vehicles painted red go faster because they think they will. Yeah.
And they think they will because Blood Angels like paint their tanks red, obviously as Blood Angels.
So you're saying Tony Stark is an orc in disguise?
He is an orc in disguise, because they paint their vehicles red as Blood Angels, and they also have souped up engines and go faster.
Yeah.
The orcs are like, hey, that red one goes faster.
It's fantastic logic.
It's great, I love it.
But yeah, it's like and it's much easier to do the combat roll on a controller than it is. It's more fluid on a controller than it is on the keyboard. And the other thing is that you can do this kind of dash charge attack, which is really fantastic for like knocking down multiple enemies, which is really fantastic when you're getting swamped. And
pinned into a corner kind of thing.
Yeah, now, admittedly, I haven't tried doing this on the keyboard and mouse, but our friend Sunner, who was playing the game as well, said that he had a lot of trouble trying to do that maneuver on the keyboard and mouse.
Does it require multiple button clicks? Or?
Yeah, it does, yeah, because you're kind of, you're sprinting and meleeing at the same time, but kind of also clicking down like the L3 button or whatever. Okay. So it's it's a little finicky, but like I think it's almost essential if you want to be playing the horde mode. Really.
Okay, yeah.
And the horde mode's fantastic. It does like ramps up in difficulty as you go, and but again, the main thing is that like there's like some little. Not the main thing. The main thing is that it's loads of fun. But the little thing is that there's like tiny balance issues between the classes and tiny balance issues with the enemies, because it's very easy to dodge melee enemies. Like you can fuck up war bosses just by dancing around a set of stairs. But the guys with guns, you literally can't get away from. If they can see you through a sliver in the crack in a banister of a staircase or like a wall, they can hit you.
They're blasting at you.
Yeah.
So I know I've been on Steam recently, and I saw that the new Warhammer game is coming out, and I had a look at the video.
Oh yeah, what's it called? Eternal Crusade?
Eternal Crusade, and that looks exactly like what you're already describing.
Yeah, no, I've been only keeping a light eye on Eternal Crusade. Now, initially I also understood it was supposed to be more of like a kind of like MMO style, like Destiny type thing. But I think they're kind of shifting it now to like
It's now like an arena shooter.
Yeah.
A multiplayer arena, or multiplayer online arena shooter.
Yeah, I've
something like that.
I've seen some footage of it, and like at the moment, because only Space Marines are in the game, they seem to use a lot of the same core gameplay as Space Marine. Which would, if they do take that, that's really good, because the gameplay from Space Marine is very smooth.
From the demo footage I saw, it looked like the same stuff you see in Space Marine. The general like weapons you have, the motion of the combat, even the fact that like when the dude runs, he feels like he's really heavy.
That's
it
something.
Looks like the screen like slightly shakes a bit, and you hear a clunk sound when he runs and stuff.
That was something I forgot to mention earlier. It's like when you're in Space Marine, there is a real feeling of weight around your character, because they are covered in like huge body armor, huge power armor, and like too often in these games you see these lads and they're like really light in their feet. And to be fair, the Space Marines do move very fast, but they also feel heavy.
And the Assault Marine, when he lands, like cracks the ground.
Yeah, it's big fun. But Eternal Crusade does look good. It's early access, so like I'm not going to be getting it for that phase because I've been stung a few times.
It's
and
fucking expensive.
It's expensive for an early access game as well.
Yeah. 20% off or whatever. So that's bullshit.
But if they deliver on the promises that they've been making, like I think the thing is when the game comes out, it's gonna be like 5 races or something. Like so you have like Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Eldar. Orcs are going to be in the game.
Nice,
but they're going to be like free to play. So if you don't own the game, you can play as orcs. So that means they're going to be probably the most numerous factions. That's kind of fit.
That's wonderful. I like that.
And there's going to be Tyranids.
Yes, please say Tyranids. I want to play a Gene Stealer.
But they're the Tyranids are PvE only, I think. As in, if you're playing like the Horde mode equivalent, you'd be fighting against Nids.
But imagine playing like a Gene Stealer cult and you got like your Ingarl tentacle face and stuff.
Yeah, we're playing as Lictor, yeah.
It's so cool, yeah.
We're kind of straying here.
Fuck it.
No, it's fine.
It's a related discussion.
Completely lost.
Yeah, no, so I just saw looking Cormac's face.
Glazing over.
Pyramids, but like... Doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah, because we're sitting here kind of going, it's like, oh yeah, well I hope they've got Carnifexes. Yeah, but what about like the DAC effects variant and all this stuff?
It's like fanboying over poor Cormac in the corner. So, Space Marine, it's like €5.
No, it's like €20 full price on Steam.
It's on sale all the time.
It's on sale.
When it goes on sale, it's like $5.99, and if you know of certain websites, you can get it for like €3.
Grand. So for a 6-hour campaign and pretty easily gotten multiplayer matches, like worth your cash.
Yeah, the campaign's fantastic. The campaign's worth it. If you're a fan of 40k, or even if you just want like a good third-person hack and slash shooter, it's a lot of fun. I really would recommend it. And if you can get a few friends together to play Exterminatus, that's even more fun, I think. So, yeah, cool. Recommend.
I'll install sometime. You've been trying to get me to play that game for like a year.
Yeah. Well, so would recommend out of 10.
Good.
Okay.
Nice
one. So, to keep on, I suppose, the sort of concept of killing shit from space, I was playing, I suppose, I was going to say like a very modern game compared to year two, but Cities Skylines I didn't realise was only a year old.
Only a year old, yeah.
I'm playing a game that's only a week old, so I'm playing XCOM 2, which is sort of a turn-based strategy game where you kill shit from space. For people who don't know, I suppose, the XCOM series, like I've only really played XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2 really. Like I know there was Bureau Declassified in the middle, but I've heard that like isn't an XCOM game and it's to be thrown
stricken from the record.
Like to be thrown in the Bioshock 2 bin.
Jury will disregard.
So sorry, for people who haven't played XCOM, and without spoiling too much story, XCOM starts, it's like, oh, the world is as we know it now, and aliens invade, and we don't know where they're from, and this sort of, like, impromptu, like, command is put together to try and combat them off, and it gets funding from all the different parts of the world, and it's up to you to kind of balance, I suppose, like, different parts of the world, if you don't focus on them, get slightly more panicked and start leaving your council and stop providing funding if you don't manage it properly. So that's kind of so there's like a macro management kind of thing where you're trying to get people to keep offering you funding and getting satellites up into the air, and then there's the micromanagement where there's incidents that you need to deal with in terms of like, oh, they invaded here, or you're trying to send out a crack team to deal with like a UFO, or so it's kind of this kind of balance of stuff. So on the ground, it's a turn-based strategy, very much like Fire Emblem. Like there's permadeath if you're playing like there's permadeath, and there's also, in terms of like the old Fire Emblem games, there's like an Iron Man mode where you can't fucking go back to your old save and be like, oh no, one of my guys died.
You can't. It's like every save overwrites the next one.
You can't scum save.
So that's the Iron Man. So yeah, you can't scum save an Iron Man. You need to go through the whole thing. So that's XCOM. So XCOM 2, without spoiling too much of the storyline in XCOM, is the aliens have kind of have occupied the Earth for like the last 20 years, and they're kind of like it's kind of a global military state kind of thing. Yeah. And it starts off, and if you do the tutorial mission, it's kind of you're doing this small little terrorist engagement, and it forces you to kill the two people on your mission. Because it was really sad. I was doing the tutorial mission, and it was like, oh, send this person up to the car. And after playing XCOM, I was like, that's a really bad idea. It's like, I'm gonna get shot to shit if I do that, but it's like you couldn't click anywhere else, and I was like, right, send up, and her name is Ramirez, so I was like, Ramirez.
The Call of Duty getting a throw shot out there, yeah.
Call of Duty throwaway, yeah. So yeah, the tutorial mission sort of gets you through the basics, but forces you to like lose these two characters, and is a small little terrorist thing, and it actually pushes forward the storyline as well, because like the whole like thing is in XCOM 1 you're like the commander, and it's like this kind of this annoying like voiceover, and I always take the piss out of, but I secretly like it, you know. and every time you're getting the missions in all the XCOM games, it's like this big deep voice going, Commander, we need you to look at this briefing and all this sort of shit, like really fucking like Shadow Council kind of crap.
You're sitting there going, I'm a commander.
It's like when you're playing like Red Alert 2 or something, and it's like the little thing comes on, and it's like, we needed you to help us. Thank you so much.
So the tutorial mission in XCOM 2 is the aliens had like cryogenically frozen you and like implanted this like chip into you to like kind of. I didn't really go through like the backstory of it all, but I'm fairly sure it was to try and understand your tactical mind kind of thing. So you're saved from this like cryo tube.
Convenient plot kind of.
Yeah, convenient plot, and you're the same guy, so you're still commander. Thank God you're back, commander. So whereas XCOM you were like you were based in a continent of your choice at the beginning and stemmed out from there.
Yeah.
This one you are kind of on a big Avengers style like ship
helicarrier, like
helicarrier.
It's called the Avenger.
It actually is called the Avenger.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So it's like a I think it used to be an alien ship as well, because it's like all the base build. There's kind of Fallout Shelter-esque like base building as well, where there's like alien debris and like
on the different like layers of the ship.
Yeah, so you got to clear out the debris, and then you can input facilities like power facilities and different like tactical upgrade facilities and stuff like that.
Kind of refurbishing the ship as you go.
Yeah,
you have it up and running, and you have like a command room, and everything else is just like derelict.
Yeah,
so you're like,
it's like you get it to the functional state, and then start adding the ensuite bathrooms.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So
get the fourth wall in there, like, so we can. 3 is not enough.
They need to break the fourth wall.
So yeah, in some ways it's more of the same, because it's like okay, you're on a ship and they've threw in this kind of same sort of base building kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on a combat level, even though some of the basics are very like so, the basics of it is a turn-based thing, obviously. So you've got most people with ranged weapons, and in XCOM now, XCOM added loads of DLC that added like a few different classes and mechs and psychic units as you went on.
Yeah.
That I didn't really play through too much, but like XCOM 2, you start off with just 4 classes anyway, and that's a demolitions expert, like a grenadier who has like a big heavy machine gun and a grenade launcher and can shoot 2 grenades. Then you have like a specialist who's like engineering kind of person. He has a little floating robot thing, and the robot can either be spec'd up to heal people or to shut down robotic enemies.
It's like a support class.
Yeah, and like as you progress with all these as well, they have talent trees and stuff, but I'll get into that in a bit. Then you have a ranger who's essentially like he's got a fuck off sword and a shotgun. It's ridiculous. Like, I think I was playing through while the guys were watching me stream.
You were watching streaming
like, and I wasn't really trying that hard, but I was just sending the ranger in with a sword I think like in like 4 missions she'd had 20 kills while everyone else had like 2 or 3.
Just like Rambo on the loose.
Oh, it was amazing. So
like the rangers are really good fun, but possibly not the best tactical choice sometimes.
Well, just to interject, that one mission where you're he named all the characters after friends of his.
So I would name myself the ranger.
So he was the ranger with the badass shotgun sword guy, but he got mind controlled by like one of the enemies that can do this mind control thing. And he just walked over to Donal and just killed him in one go.
I think that's like a really nice feature, like the XCOM games, where they can kind of let you insert your own kind of vested interest into the.
Sorry, what's the last one? The last one is the sniper. So the sniper is like sniper rifle and pistols.
You were a sniper, Phil.
Yeah, because you're super tall, so you can see everything with your elf eyes. It made sense.
Forever.
It seems, but like with the thing that when you get a new recruit, you can then just customize them completely. You can change their name and what they look like. So even though you get like a guy that
you can change their biography, you can it's really super customizable.
Yeah. If you don't like the person or you want to add your own friend in, you don't have to wait until you get someone that looks like your friend.
Yeah,
you can just completely just change them from scratch and stick a beard on them or make them blonde or whatever.
Make them female or male.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I was saying a second ago, it kind of lets you kind of self-insert into the game quite a lot, which I think is really cool.
I started really rooting for me. I was like, heavy machine gun.
But that's the thing, like when Donald died, there was even like a memorial room, so I could write an epitaph for him. So I just like died the way he lived in like everyone else's shadow. So yeah, it's like it's really good fun, like, because you can add in like your own little personal touches, and that gets you invested the same way. I'm not, like, you guys probably didn't play like Fire Emblem or Advance Wars or any of those.
I played Final Fantasy Tactics and Advance Wars.
Yeah, but Fire Emblem in particular, like, you really like, because there's a huge lore and story behind each character.
Yeah.
So you really start to like, oh man, I love Joshua. He's my favorite like assassin or that. Like, it's just because you know the character and like because you see his interaction with stuff that you get attached to different characters.
Yeah.
And XCOM adds that in terms of the fact that, well, you can write your own biography for everyone and like make them like, and he can be a badass and he can go slice stuff. And that's the thing, I was actually kind of role playing, and that's why Cormac was being such an idiot, because it was like the whole like storyline behind, like, he became a ranger, and that's when I edited him to be me. And the whole like storyline behind him is like, thinks he's a lot better than he is, and there's more resources spent trying to keep him alive than anything else, kind of thing.
It's like you have him doing the 1-1 army thing, so you don't want to reel it back, like.
Yeah. And I was just sprinting at stuff, and there was times when Donald was like, Cormac, why are you putting like the specialist with a robot can add defense to Rangers and stuff like that, or to anyone else. So I was like, Cormac, why are you adding the defense to your own guy? Like, he's completely out of position. And it was like, yeah, I know, but and then just sprinted him forward again. Sliced big robot in half, and he's there with like, I've got plus defense, it's fine, out in the open.
I'll shrug it off.
Actually, speaking of which, like, how does this game compare to the last XCOM?
It's actually cool because it's done something that I haven't seen a lot of turn-based strategies do, in that like if you play a Fire Emblem game, it's kind of samey in that there's archers and there's snipers and then there's knights, and like it's the same kind of characters coming up, even though like the storyline behind it is different and maybe the combat is different, or they can wield different weapons. But
you mean it's like across different games too?
Yeah, it's generally similar. Or Advance Wars, where Advance Wars did that really terrible thing.
Small tank, medium tank, big tank, giant robot.
Yeah, and it was just we've got the same units, and now we've got better units. Whereas XCOM, what they did was not a hard, like a kind of soft reset. So in XCOM 1, the basic enemies were called the little sectoids, and they were little tiny, like half height aliens that could like interact with each other to power up each other, and like they shot weapons, but they had really low health. Okay? Yeah. Now sectoids are kind of an annoying, like they've got, the thing they've thrown in is that they've got human DNA inserted into them, so they're human height now. Can mind control right off the bat, can like induce panic, can like
they can raise the dead.
They can resurrect dead units you've already killed.
Holy hell.
Into zombies. But when you kill the sectoid, the other units all die again.
It's like Necromancer style.
Yeah. So this is the thing, they're a completely different unit to the first one. The Thin Men, who are like these really like weird looking humans, they were kind of like their infiltration unit. They looked like they literally looked like someone carved off your skin and wore it. It looks like horrendous. It's just
horrific looking.
It's like not even in any way convincing, but it's like man shaped.
It's like the alien in Men in Black.
Oh,
but yeah, they replaced them with these characters called Vipers, which are like literally these big snake units. It's like they kind of say, "Oh man, this is what the Thin Man used to be, except this is it without the disguise," kind of thing.
They look like Nagas, like from fantasy stuff. You know, the snake body, but the man upper body.
Exactly, yeah, and like they're like super scary as well. Even though Thin Men were like the second strongest unit or something like that, and then like so now, because those are stronger, the basic units are kind of these. Are they? I'm not sure. They're like indoctrinated like clone units with like implants into them, and like they're kind of the military sort of police force that are keeping the basic like humans in line, and they're the big muscling people around and stuff.
They have like stun batons and
like the basic one just it has like 3 health, and it's like you can kill it in one shot like straight off the bat, and they've got guns, and then they've got like there's officer versions of those which are like similar but have 6 health, but they're still easy enough to deal with. But then there's like these guys with the same way the ranger has a big fuck off sword, these guys have like a big fuck off stun.
Big stun off fuck stick.
Big stun off fuck stick. And literally, and can do the same thing where they just sprint at you. So anytime I see one of those, I literally just retreat, put everyone on guard and
shoot the shit out of them.
I know
he's going to snipe them.
So in terms of kind of tactics like this, I really enjoy like turn-based strategy games in terms of like trying to figure out all the map, and I'm playing it on Iron Man, which makes it a much more fun experience because it's like I Donald died and I replaced him with Clonal, and then Clonal died, so I couldn't. I know we had a second, third.
I didn't see you stream that one.
I think it was just I'll go with Dronal or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where. Like
suffer the consequences.
You have to suffer the consequences, and I enjoyed that about Fire Emblem. But I suppose Fire Emblem had the thing where you could literally just restart the whole mission, like 3 hours of your life gone. Whereas this
worth.
It's like at least he's no longer dead.
Exactly.
It's like
but I am on the inside.
It's like in Assassin's Creed 2 when you missed like the Leonardo quick time event hug, and you're like, no, I'm just going to restart the save. I'll play through the last 2 missions again. I'm not missing that. Not a chance.
Gotta hug me some Leo.
But yeah, it's quite complicated because there's a lot of fog of war sort of situation, like where you've got to probe forward with certain units, and then like I find myself probing forward and then retreating, and then trying to get everyone into
strategic
positions around that,
or tactical positions even.
Yeah, and there's like there's a concept of rather than you can make a normal move and then you can make a second move, which is a sprint. So if you make a normal move, you can generally shoot afterwards.
Yeah.
Whereas if you sprint, unless you're like the ranger who like is all about sprinting and going forward and knifing people and shotgunning people, so most people can make one move and then they can either take a shot or go into better, like add more defense to themselves, so go into hard cover like behind something, or they can go into what's called Overwatch, which is if an enemy moves and they can see them,
they get a free shot.
They get a free shot at it, and it's got like some sort of aim penalty. But that's what I mean in terms of the blade guys. Like as soon as I see the blade guys, I usually retreat and get 2 or 3 people into Overwatch so that he's going to get shot to crap and die, hopefully.
Is that 2-tiered movement thing something that was in the first
That's
XCOM?
The combat system is very similar to XCOM, I will say.
And
the way they made it a lot different is by changing the way the units work.
Okay.
And there's also more diverse missions and there's more diverse units, I suppose. Like, for instance, in terms of the missions, there used to be missions in XCOM where like, oh no, the civilians are getting attacked. We gotta go clear, like save all of the civilians. So you needed to drop down on the map, and you'd start on one side, the aliens on the other side, and they're killing the civilians, like ignoring you pretty much, and you've got to save a certain amount to succeed.
Yeah.
What they've done in this one is the mission starts out like that, and then all of a sudden you get into reach of one, and one of them triggers this cutscene. This is the first time you do one of these missions, and it's a big shapeshifter.
It looks like Clayface.
It looks like Clayface, yeah. It's just this big, like, skin drooling, like, not fully physical formed, like, shape-shifting thing. It's ridiculously...
It's like, I was only pretending to be a civilian. The boyfriend is like, what? All this time.
And that's the thing, like, you're trying to run around and, like, save, like, 13 people, and then, like, you've got to make sure you don't sprint that one, because if you've run out of... So, like, in the first one, you could just sprint into, like, a circle, and, like, that civilian would, like, trigger and run out, and they'd be saved. Whereas this one, like, you've got to really be like certain that it's not going to turn into a big monster.
Yeah, in case you have to get back out again.
That's the thing. If you use both your movements to get in and try and save him before he gets shot,
you're out the open.
The chances is that there's a chance there that he's going to turn into this huge like xenomorph, I suppose, or whatever you want to call it. Clayface.
Yeah.
They call it a Clayface.
So like XCOM 2 kind of like, it would kind of subvert the expectations like XCOM players, make you force you to play differently.
Well, that's the thing. I do like XCOM was the kind of game that I know I only played through it once, but I know a lot of people played through it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Just like trying out different units, trying out different ways of progressing, and
min-maxing the game,
focusing on different techs or engineering upgrades, like trying to go in harder difficulties. XCOM 2 is like, it's like they said, we're not going to make another DLC, we're going to make a new game and make it just a better like base level.
Yeah.
And like I've only gotten through about a few hours, about 4 hours of the game, 5 hours, and I know that XCOM 1 I think took about 20-ish hours to get through the campaign like properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's really enjoyable, and like if you liked XCOM, you're not going to be disappointed with XCOM 2. Well, I wasn't anyway. Yeah, but like it's kind of I like turn-based strategy games a lot, and it's a really good addition to sort of the genre, I suppose.
So would recommend out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10-com out of 10.
10-com, yeah. XCOM out of X. You know, what's it, Roman decimals there?
Roman decimals.
Oh man, I'm so incoherent today.
You need another cup of tea in you.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we'll call this a Donkey Kong wrap, as we said last time.
Yeah.
So this has been the Good Game Ireland podcast. Thanks to anyone who actually stayed and listened to it all.
I don't think I've even gotten to my own part of the last 2 podcasts yet. I need to go back and listen to them all fully.
Listening to your own pod. Anyway, I've been Phil.
I've been Aaron.
I've been Cormac.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.